everybody here? 7:01. It's time to start. This regular council meeting of the Oak Park City Council is called to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Ed Norris, please call the roll.
Mayor McClellan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Here.
Councilmember Speech, Councilmember Radner,
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Okay, we have a quorum. Members of council, please add item 10B to the agenda. It is another block club meeting. 10B. You received a paper on it on your desk here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with the addition?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda. These are routine items that are presented without vote, and any council member can ask to have one of these items removed for special discussion. They are regular council meeting minutes of August 18th, Zoning Board of Appeals meeting minutes of April 26th, Planning Commission meeting minutes of May 9th, Corridor Improvement Authority Board meeting minutes of June 16th, request by the Betty Harris Larynx Cancer Awareness Center to be recognized as a nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license. F, payment application number 1 in the amount of $189,008.98 to Proline Paving Corporation for the Scotia Resurfacing Project M642. Payment application number 1 in the amount of $124,331.87 to Trollson Excavating Company for the 2016 Sewer Lateral and Catch Basin Repair Project M648. Beautification Advisory Commission resolution and nominee recommendations for the year 2016, beautification awards, and finally, licenses, new and renewals is submitted for September 6th, 2016. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there support? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Looking out, I don't see an elected official, so we are down to special recognitions and presentations. City Manager Eric Tungate, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. As all of you know, it's my distinct honor every month to honor a great employee in the city government here at the City of Oak Park. Charlie Osborne is an employee in a fairly new employee too, by the way, in our library. She has a bachelor's degree in English from Oakland University and a master's in library information science from Wayne State. What a great school Wayne State is, right, everybody?
Yes.
My alma mater there. She is State of Michigan Level 1 Librarian's Permanent Professional Certification holder. And in 2005, she was awarded the Francis Pletz Award of Excellence in Service to Young Adults by the Library of Michigan's Teen Services Division. I could go on and on and on, and it's just more evidence of the amazing work that she's doing in our library. And for those of you that don't frequent our library, if you do, you'll notice that the library is at an all-time high in terms of circulation, and we've added computers, we've added other amenities, including a teen area that Charlie spearheaded, working alongside Director Bowman, that has made a substantial difference in our patrons and their comfort levels visiting our library. I wanted to turn it over for Director Bowman to add a few insights as well.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, City Manager, Madam Mayor, City Council. It's my pleasure to be here tonight and to honor Charlie for all the work that she's done for us over the last almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in October that she's been with us, and I can't say enough good things about her. Her basically anything you ask of her that she does, no questions asked. She goes above and beyond every single day. Other people in the library look to her to see what to do. Even longtime employees will look to Charlie for things. So it's really nice to have someone of that caliber working for us here in the city. And really, with her being the first employee that I was able to bring on board, I feel like it's set a good tone for us going forward. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what she's able to do in the next couple of years with us moving forward. So.
Thank you very much. And again, I just want to honor you, Charlie. Thank you so much for your effort and everything that you're doing here at our great city. It's making a tremendous difference, and we thank you so much. And to further embarrass you, I'd like to ask the members of City Council to join me in a photo session here if we could. Thank you.
I met Charlie at a fabric store. She was buying odds and ends for crafts projects for the kids. And thank you. Thanks for coming. The caliber of the programming at the library is very, very impressive. And we're appreciative of all the extra work that takes. Number 11. 10?
10.
10 special licenses, sorry. Okay. Seneca Block Club. Okay, item 10A is a request for special event license and waiver of application fee is submitted by Thomas Zarafa, 24-320 Seneca, for the 15th annual Seneca Block Party to be held on September 11th, 2016. A motion to approve this, please.
So moved.
Support.
Is there discussion or questions?
Looks great.
Okay. They do a great job and a lot of spirit on that block. And Mr. Zarafa is the one who takes the lead on this every year and makes that a little special community over there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The new item 10B, Shauna Goebel is requesting an annual block party for residents of the 13,000 block of Vernon for September 18th, 2016. She is requesting a waiver of fees as well. Is there a motion to accept this request?
So moved.
Is there support?
Second.
Second. Any discussion or questions?
Yes.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
I suggest that we table the approval, we can only waive it if the event is open to the public.
And I think that all of the block clubs are open to the public.
Yeah, okay, she just checked no on here, so I was just.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Just as a point of clarification, I do believe the exception to that rule that we do, you're correct, we normally do have, is that in the case of block clubs, we have traditionally waived their application fee.
Okay.
Application fee. And then just, it's always for members of the block.
Okay.
So, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, item 11A. Request for approval of payment of invoices submitted by Garen Luca Miller PC for legal services in the total amount of $14,332.30. Is there a motion to approve this payment?
So moved.
Second.
Second, discussion or questions for Garen Luca?
It's just unbelievably important to pay your lawyer.
Said the lawyer on.
That's exactly what she just said to me,
That's
too.
right. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Bids, I believe we're calling Assistant City Manager Kevin Yee to discuss awarding this bid for the concrete program.
Thank you. At the July 18th, 2016 regular meeting of the Oak Park City Council, the request to bid the 2016 miscellaneous concrete project M644 was approved. The project was advertised and 39 contractors viewed the documents. On August 22nd, 2016, 6 bids were received and opened. The low bidder, Rotundo Construction of Farmington Hills, Michigan, submitted a bid of $276,453. References were checked and all had positive responses. This project will replace sections of damaged pavement from water and sewer breaks, along with other patches throughout the city. The project will also replace sidewalk sections in the city of Pleasant Ridge as part of their sidewalk replacement program, along with other reimbursable sidewalk based on complaints and sidewalk evaluations. So for this project, we have decided to work with the city of Pleasant Ridge. They are going to reimburse us for our expenses on the project, and it's a nice joint project with another municipality. We've talked with them about some other projects as well. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to spread out a little bit and work for some other municipalities.
So is there a motion to award this bid?
So moved?
Second.
Discussion or questions?
It looks like
Councilmember
The-
Radner?
it looks like you have something to say.
I did, thank you.
Okay, some
There
more.
was there was a little bit more. So I'm
Okay.
recommending to award the bid, but also there's $250,000 budgeted. The project came in at $276,453 due to adding some of the sidewalk that I had mentioned. We estimate we have about $70,000 worth of reimbursable work in this project. So really, although it's over budget, we're going to be reimbursed, and it will not exceed our funding amount. So I also will need further recommend that $26,453 be used from the water and sewer fund balance to fund the project until we're reimbursed.
Okay. Awarding the bid and authorizing the sewer fund money?
The motion that's on the table and has been seconded, does it include the additional $26,000?
So let's add, we need an amendment then.
Well, do we, Mr. Norris?
I think you do.
No? It's already on. It's already on the,
It would be okay to backtrack that a little bit and add that.
add that amendment.
Okay.
So we need an amendment to authorize $26,450 from the water and sewer fund.
Moved.
Okay.
Support.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Then the whole amended motion, are we ready for a vote?
I think we need discussion.
Discussion. City Manager Tungate, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Assistant City Manager Yee, one thing, just point of clarification on Pleasant Ridge and their sidewalk program. I think it's important to explain how they pay for their sidewalk program. They do it a little bit different than we do.
Well, in their program, they, I believe it's part of their millage, their road millage. that they added in their sidewalk. So their sidewalk is paid for by the city, 100%, but it's through a millage that they had passed.
And I wanted to just make that clear because that's, does not put us at as much of a risk situation because we're getting paid directly from the city.
Thank you for that.
Anything else?
Yeah, just a question for Mr. Yee or for Mr. Tungate. The $76,000 that we're gonna get reimbursed will get placed back into a particular fund as opposed to the general fund?
Water and sewer fund.
Correct. We'll replace it back to where we took the funds from.
Thank you.
Further questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. We are down to the city manager section. City Manager Tungate, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Assistant City Manager Yee, if you could go over 15A for us, please.
Yes, thank you. The Public Works and Public Safety Departments are requesting authorization to participate in the My Deal bid, which is a state of Michigan bid, for the purchase of 2 marked police vehicles. The total vehicle purchase price for both is $81,267. There is $100,000 budgeted in the motor pool capital outlay account in the 2016-17 budget for this expenditure. It is recommended that City Council authorize the Public Works Department to participate in the My Deal bid for the purchase of 2 marked police vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for this request?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, discussion or questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
What kind of cars? I mean, marked, obviously, police
These are-
cars, but
Correct, these are marked police cruisers.
about $40,000 each. Regular vehicles, not the SUVs we've been talking about.
These are SUVs, these are Chevy Tahoes.
And is this just the base price for the vehicle, as opposed to, and then we have to add on a whole bunch of equipment?
There are some things that needed to be added on. One of these has a light bar package, and the other one does not, because we have a light bar, I think, that we can equip it with. And we're gonna try out the light bar from the factory instead of equipping it ourselves. But there are additional expenses for the vehicles. So there are there's additional equipment that goes into them.
Where's the money for that gonna come from?
The same account, it's about $19,000 less than what we have budgeted, and the rest of that funding is used for equipping the vehicles.
Okay, so you already have in the account $100,000, and you anticipate that once the vehicles are fully equipped, the two vehicles will be less than the $100,000.
Yes.
And the reason we need these 2 vehicles is?
Actually, we probably could use more, but our fleet is aging, and we need to continually update them.
Are there 2 vehicles that are gonna be scrapped, sold, salvaged?
Generally speaking, with the vehicles, is we take the two that mechanic recommends we take out of the police fleet, and we try to repurpose them. If there's older vehicles in the fleet that we can replace, for instance, the park rangers typically use an old police car because they're out patrolling the parks. Sometimes technical and planning code enforcement will use them. So we try to repurpose the vehicles. We are at a point where a lot of the police hand-me-down vehicles, so to speak, that we're getting are not as usable as they used to be because we're replacing them less frequently. So a lot of times those actually have to be, those are sold off.
City Manager Tungate.
Could I call Director Cooper? Could you come to the podium, please? I wanted to just on the point of going to this SUV model department, and then also if you wouldn't, I don't know if you can talk about it, but one of the vehicles is a little bit different than what we're used to.
Right, we switched from the sedan-style vehicles to actually the SUV platform. And one of the issues that we were constantly faced with is that because we do the police, the fire, and the medical first responder, the state is requiring more and more equipment that we actually have to carry an outfit in those vehicles. And it's kind of like sticking 20 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag with the sedans. So we actually switched over to the SUV-style vehicles. Now, we do have a couple of Ford Explorers that are actually in our fleet. They're a smaller SUV style. They're not as rugged. and as durable. Obviously, you know, these vehicles have to perform, and we get on them pretty hard because obviously we're responding to emergency runs. You're talking about, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're constantly running these vehicles. The fleet, like Assistant City Manager Yee was saying, normally I can remember coming here where we would replace 4 vehicles every year. And now we're down to the point where, I know before the city manager got here, we had no vehicles that were being replaced. We were trying to limp them along, and then it got to the point where it was just causing more money not to replace the vehicles than it was to actually replace them. So 2 is not where, you know, we'd want to be, but it's definitely better than 0 or 1. And the Tahoe is more rugged. It's a larger vehicle. It appears to fit our needs in the public safety department as we stand right now. And I know Assistant City Manager Yee was saying as well, there is a certain amount of outfitting that actually has to be done once it comes from the manufacturer. So it, you know, it's not cheap. It's not cheap to outfit the vehicles and to put them on the road, but we're hoping to get a longer life expectancy out of them. And, you know, obviously you can't skimp when you're, you know, responding out here trying to, you know, provide the best possible services for the residents and the citizens that use our community.
This My Deal bid, I suspect that there's a bunch of communities that are pulling together to make a large bid for a number of vehicles from the manufacturer. Is that the whole point?
That's correct.
So you get better pricing because you can maybe get 20 or 30 or 40 vehicles for 10 or 20 communities. Is that the idea?
That's the idea behind it.
All right. And the $100,000 has already been budgeted last time we made the budget, right?
Yes,
And so we'll be within the budget then,
it
correct?
is in the budget, yes.
Director Cooper, I don't know if you want to talk about what one of the SUVs will be a ghost vehicle, if you wanted to mention anything about that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part, sir.
One of the SUVs will be a blacked out vehicle, ghost vehicle.
Right. Well, it's called a ghost vehicle because the markings on it, they're pretty much kind of, I don't want to say that they're invisible, but there's no light bar on the top, and the side, you actually have to get up on them to get your headlights to actually reflect so you can actually see that they are marked police vehicles. They're equipped with all of the necessary lights. One of the things it does, that vehicle will help us to kind of stealth around the neighborhoods a little more when we're out running traffic enforcement. A lot of times when residents or citizens that come through your community, you know, it's no secret that they ride down the street and they see a car with a big light bar on top. Obviously, you know it's the police. Not that we're trying to catch or trick anyone, but we want you to, you know, act how you would in your normal environment and let the chips kind of fall where they may. And like I said, it also gives us an opportunity to stealth around the neighborhoods without being detected. And we're able to foil a lot of crimes that way. And I think it's a great purpose. I'd like to have more of them, but right now, like you said, we are kind of walking before we start to run here, so.
Thank you.
Now, are we ready for a vote?
Yeah.
Okay, City Clerk Ed Norris, we can,
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'd like to call Finance Director Carl Johnson to the podium, and we have 2 items here. The first one, actually both of these are the next 2 are for your information purposes. These are falling in line, 15B, in terms of our quarterly financial report. This happens to be the quarter that also mirrors our fiscal year end June 30. These numbers are unaudited numbers, but I wanted to point out a couple of high notes here. We have, and because I know everybody goes to this first, as I often do myself, if you look at the top of page 2, and by the way, Finance Director Carl Johnson is going to go into more detail here in a moment. We have been able to increase our general fund balance, which is our rainy day fund, to $3.678 million, which is 18% of the general fund. Now remember that policy is 8.33%, so we're doing 10% better than our very own policy And that's a far cry from where things were just a few short years ago. In addition to that, we were able to boost up our fund balance. We've also made a contribution to the retiree healthcare account of $900,000, and I believe that brings our total contributions to our retiree healthcare liability to about $2.6 million, which, remember, that was zero when all of you took office. Also, we have our normal annual contribution. We were able to make a $200,000 more than required annual contribution to our pension liability. And that's along with what we hope will continue to be a little bit better interest rate improvements. That $200,000, in addition to our regular contribution, will go a long way in terms of fully funding our full liability. And we all know that that is one of our most challenging items. And our full liability at full amortization is about $68 million. And we've got some, that's our retiree healthcare obligation. We're 60% funded on our pension liability. So we've got a long way to go before we get there. The good news is this: we're really, really making some great strides. And just lastly, before I turn it over to Finance Director Johnson, we were able to provide for a capital improvement fund for $150,000. Now, when we get the audited numbers, we will come back to you and ask for your permission to memorialize these requests. And that will be money set aside so that we can do some of our much-needed improvements, such as to the pool, other city facilities, and so forth. Carl, could you take it away from there?
Certainly will. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. More good news. I love coming up here and talking about good news. Of course, I love to talk anyway, but good news is so much nicer to talk about. So what you have before you, as the city manager described, is this, what we call the 60-day report. In our charter, it actually mandates that the department heads report to the city manager within 60 days after year end, estimated financial condition of the city, of which he compiles and is supposed to prepare a report, a summary report for you, and that's what you have in front of you. So we're slightly more than the 60 days. Again, the 60 days was the departments to the city manager, and then obviously this is the first meeting since the 60 days, so it's right before you. The purpose really for this is, and the reason for having it in the charter is so that you know as timely as possible after the year is ended where we think we're going to end up. Because if it's bad news, we want to be able to react as quick as we can, and if it's good news, obviously we can react accordingly as well. So the items that the city manager described meant that our new budgetary controls that have been in place for the last year, along with our department heads and their entire teams, really were very effective. Everybody lived within their means. The budgets were set, the budgets were amended, and really we ended up better than we thought we were going to the tune of almost $500,000. And that's where the extra $200,000 came. So again, it wasn't, hey, let's take the $200,000 or the $500,000 and let's just sit on it. It was, what can we do? What's our biggest needs? And obviously, we have infrastructure needs, capital needs, so $150,000 was recommended to be set aside for that. Pension obviously is to the forefront, so $250,000, $200,000 more than what we're legally required to contribute went into the pension fund, as well as fully funding our OPEB contribution of $900,000. So what you'll see, or what my estimate as we sit here today, is that we will increase fund balance by about $250,000 over last year, and that includes all of those items. So as you can see, I have 3 pages worth of reports. I don't know how many, how much detail you want to go into, but really every fund of the city is right where I'd hope it would be, and actually even more favorable. Some of the larger variances you'll see throughout the report, like in the major and local street funds and the water and sewer fund. We have capital projects going on, like the street paving out front here. That was actually budgeted last year. And so obviously the construction season doesn't start till the frost ends, which is in April, May, before it actually kicks off. So some of those projects, like this one, was hundreds of thousands of dollars, budgeted last year, and some of that carries forward into the new year. So very soon you'll have a rollover budget amendment from me that will incorporate those rollovers. But like I say, all in all, it's very good news, and throughout all of the funds of the city. The only kind of downer throughout is that our healthcare costs are up. We are self-insured. We have about 3 or 4 significant cases out there that have got us up to our stop loss. And so we are liable for every dollar up to the first $85,000 for each claim. And we have 3 or 4 significant health issues with some of our employees and retirees that have hit us up to that stop loss, so within certain departments. But all in all, not too bad, a little higher than we thought, but again, savings in other areas have really helped to offset some of that stuff. And again, those are spread citywide throughout all the departments. So with that, I'll open this up to any specific questions, because like I say, otherwise I could
First,
for
I'd like to
hours.
thank you for putting financial data into normal English that the average bear can understand. That was wonderful. On page 3, I just wondered, under internal service funds, significant increase in workers' comp cost. Are those the health claims that you just referred to?
Nope, those are the health insurance claims that I was referring to. So workers' comp is actually injuries on the job.
Okay.
And so we have had a few of those as well over the past couple of years. And so as those occur, we do what we can to address those. But obviously injuries happen. So as those come out, we're evaluated over a 3 or 4 year rolling basis. And so as you can see there, I highlighted it went from $270,000 a year ago to over $460,000 for the current year. So
And-
we know what those cases are. We try to address them and make sure that no future claims happen. And so as our experience decreases, those premiums will decrease as well.
And I would just mention, Mayor, it also includes our general liability costs too, not just our workers' comp costs.
And then just a retiree healthcare increased, almost doubled. And then are these offset by savings also?
So again, the retiree healthcare, so the one in particular that you're looking at is the court retirees. So,
Right.
so a couple of the significant cases they were talking about, health-wise, are for retirees within the court system. So as you know, the court pays for some of their costs. The city kicks in for some of the costs as well. And so all of this is part of the court operating costs.
Any other questions? Councilmember Rich?
So attached to your synopsis report, you've got about 14 pages.
Yep.
I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Just to make sure I understand this. Obviously, this is for the year end, 100% complete for the whole year ending through June 30, 2016, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So if I look at, for example, page 3 of the addendum, help me understand a couple things here. Brownfield Authority, you've obviously got in parentheses a number there, $70,000, showing that the budget for that went up. Instead of being 100%, you wanted to have, I'm assuming you wanted your number somewhere in the 90s or just slightly over 100, like 101, 172. Just the reason for that 70,000?
Sure, let me explain the brownfield. So what happened was, due to staffing turnover and a variety of other reasons, the city has been capturing brownfield money for about the past 5, 6, 7 years and not forwarding on to the developers to reimburse them for their brownfield costs. So what this represents here is, when I first got here, we immediately dug into that, got it all worked out with not only internally, but with the developers themselves, got all the agreements in place with the help of Ms. Maroney as well as others here at the city, got all the agreements in place, which was a long, lengthy process, and all of the funds that have been captured. So you see the expenditure of $337,000 on that page.
Yes.
That is a full 6 or 7 years worth of brownfield captures. What was originally budgeted, that $97,000 you're referring to, that's a single year's capture. So we actually had multiple years. The brownfield has grown. You can see the previous year was $118,000. This last year, the capture was $187,000 because we added a separate brownfield. So the sum of those two together is why it's up. The revenue's up $167,000, and the reason for the significant expenditure is the prior year's brownfield captures that we were sitting on. They were in the city's books, segregated to be paid, but they just had never been paid.
And that, by the way, that's mostly with the FedEx development property.
So in the future, you should just see the annual capture, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $160,000, $170,000 with a disbursement to match that. That's how the brownfield's supposed to work. We're supposed to capture it and reimburse the developers for allowable costs.
What I'm not finding here is that it's probably all by subcategories by different departments, but I was looking for the bottom line number,
Page 2.
page 2 of the should be about a $20 million number somewhere in here.
Oh, on page 2 at the top for the general fund?
Yes. So your current numbers for last year's budget shows that you came about 1%, 1.15% under budget for the entire general fund.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's good.
That's the 250,000 we had talked about, yep.
All right.
And the line item above that, you see for the revenues, we were actually within 8,300, so don't hold me to that one every year, so that one actually worked out well.
Were there any particular line items, you mentioned in your, some of these line items that are over budget, it's because we were spending money that was saved up that had to be spent this year on certain things like you just explained. Were there any particular departments that you have concerns about for being over budget, not just as a technical matter because we had to spend the money this year, but the money was there? Do you understand my question?
Sure, yep.
Which
But
departments would?
Yeah, but actually, if you look at the general fund, and so that's page 1 and page 2 by department, the only departments that were over budget is that darn finance department was over by $10,000. And then the non-departmental expenses, that is the transfers, primarily the transfers to the court and to the retirement system. So with both of these relate to the healthcare costs specifically. So one of the employees within the finance department is out on medical leave, and she's one of those that hit the max, the ceiling for that $85,000 stop loss, which is why that one variance of $10,000 occurred in the finance department. And then the other variance within the non-departmental, that is the contribution of $150,000 to the new capital improvement fund as we expanded here. That was never budgeted. That was a result of the favorable results from this year, as well as the contribution to the court was about $200,000 over, primarily because of their healthcare costs, their retiree healthcare costs were over budget, and therefore the city had to contribute that. So those are the two that really comprise that $368,000 negative variance you have there. Outside of that, that's where I say we've really, since I got here, we've implemented controls. We've let the departments run with their budgets, let them live within their budgets. Through the budget process, we said, here's your budget. You let us work with you. Let me help you figure out exactly what you need and how we can live within it, and we can move things around between line items. But let's not change your budget, and if we are, bring it back to you. That's what those quarterly amendments are for. So we set the budgets, and the departments did an outstanding job really staying within them. And again, that 1.15% variance citywide is a great number. It really is a great number. So I always strive for like a 2-3% cushion, for everybody to come in. If everybody comes in under 3%, we increase fund balance every single year, and everybody's happy. So 1.15, especially with our tight budget, was really a great accomplishment.
With regard to revenues, on page 5, large negative number under the solid waste fund.
So actually, negative in that case is good.
That's good?
Yep, so I don't know why the system calls it just says abnormal.
Yeah.
So you can see there, the budget was 2.541 million for solid waste. We ended up at 2.640. So our revenues were actually $99,000 greater. And that's primarily for charges for services.
Okay.
The tax levy was right on. Those are additional services that were billed out, and the special pickups and those types of things that were billed out. And you can see there the costs were actually $2.5 million. So net for the year, that one had a revenues exceeding expenditures by $73,000. And so again, another reason why not increasing the rates, was right on as far as this coming year. So we are doing slightly better than break even in that fund, and so not passing on any rate increase, we'll bring that number closer to zero for the new year.
So even though that number is in parentheses, which is normally a negative,
Yep.
the 99,380.
Yeah, it's funny that you can see the expenditures, the 220 is a positive number, and that's a good thing, but the revenue one's a negative, and that's just how the crazy system puts it, so.
Just means it's abnormal from the budget.
Would the same thing apply on page 7 with regard to the COPS grant?
That one, the revenue, again, being negative is a good thing. The expenditure being negative is a bad thing. So for that one there, but you see both numbers are $397,000. This was the end of the COPS grant. So we made sure we maxed out the remaining amounts available. What had happened about a year and a half ago when the Act 345 levy was implemented here at the city. For some reason, we stopped charging the COPS grant for our pension contribution, which wasn't correct. So we got with the granting agency, made sure that it was an allowable cost, and should have been an allowable cost all along. So that's why the big jump from 250 we budgeted to 400. We were able to charge pension contributions going back about 3 years and get reimbursed for them and close out the rest of the grant. So
I'm glad you mentioned Act 345. That's the 7 millage points that we're collecting for another, what, 2 or 3 or 4 years?
correct.
Am I correct that without that particular millage, we'd be in very tough financial shape?
Yep, so we ended the year 250,000 to the good, but that included, get the exact number here, 2.987 million from that levy.
So it's fair to inform the citizens of the city that in 2 or 3, or I forget when Act 345 expires. Pardon?
2019.
So 2019, or whenever it is, 2018, the year before, we're gonna have to ask the citizens again to renew that millage, Act 345. In your opinion, right?
Let me respond to that.
City Manager
Let
Tungate.
me take that one. So with our general fund balance being 3.6 million, we would have enough to offset the loss of that direct funding to the, was what, 2.9 was it?
2.9, yes.
2.975. So we have enough on hand to carry us forward for one fiscal year,
Only 1 year, then we'd be in dire shape.
right? Presumably, yes.
So I just want to be very clear and upfront, although the financial picture is fantastic now, that's because the citizens passed Act 345.
That is true.
Not only because of
I was
that.
gonna say, not only. There's
Yeah,
a-
not
there's
only,
other-
but without that, we really have a hard, we wouldn't be talking about getting 2 new Tahoes, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, and if I could just
I hate
say-
to do this drumbeat all the time, but I know that we're gonna have to go in 2 or 3 years to the citizens and explain to them, yeah, things have been great. But guess what? We have to renew this millage.
Right. Couple of things, if I could, Madam Mayor and members of council, that, in terms of what are my, you're not asking me, but I'll volunteer it, what are my biggest concerns for the city's budget
Please.
in our finances? The first one would be our long-term liabilities. And because the pension system is only 60% funded, you know, we're not where we need to be in terms of our annual contribution keeps growing and growing and growing. And because we're not fully funded, we're not able to offset it directly. Retiree healthcare, same story. Long-term liability, that's going to continue to hound us. And again, we're getting a head start on pre-funding some of that liability for the first time ever. Secondly, healthcare costs. Healthcare was an area back in 2014 when we switched to a pay-as-you-go system. We saved millions, literally millions. And we saw a dip in our costs because obviously we were self-funded pay-as-you-go. Those rates in terms of annual increases overall are now getting into double digits. What was the rate increase, did you see? 16%.
Yeah, it was 18%
It
or
was
something like
it
that,
was
16,
an
18%.
outlandish number. Part of the reason rates, overall increase rates were lower was because the Affordable Care Act had kicked in and so forth. Well, that environment has now dissipated and we can expect to see these double-digit increases in our healthcare costs year to year now. And we're ready for that, and we've expected that, which is partly why we have a 3-year budget. Last but not least, we're not getting any help from our friends at the state of Michigan. The state set the inflation rate at 0.3%, which means that our revenue growth in terms of the millages we have out there now is limited to 0.3%. Revenue sharing has remained almost entirely static. We've seen a modest increase in the last few years. And then just lastly, the COPS grant is now gone, as Mr. Johnson mentioned, and that's a big hit. We took all of these things into consideration when we got this 3-year budget ratified. The other thing is we have our ratings call coming up fairly soon.
Yep.
And my hope, and it's always been my hope, is to get us to AA, S&P AA status. If we do that, we can go out and get insurance against our pension liability and other things to put us on a different trajectory. And I lied, one more thing. On top of all of this, City Council has allowed me to refinance these street bonds. And by doing that, we have now reduced taxes while we're seeing this environment where, yes, we had 345 in place. Since that time, we have now reduced taxes by it's a full mill plus, correct?
Yes,
What's the exact?
I think it was 1.1 or something.
1.1
like
mils.
1.2.
And that's a direct reflection of those acts.
And I just want to say, I appreciate every single thing that the finance department and that Mr. Tungate have done, your office,
Thank you.
to save money, et cetera, but I just want to have the citizens of the city know, we're going to ask them again to renew that millage, and I forget when that's going to be, in 2 or 3 years. And that's why I like to, I know I'm always the harbinger of doom, but I think it's important to be aware that we're going to have to do that.
It's a very good point, and that is why, like you said, to the extent we have a good year like we had, and we controlled our costs, and we didn't run out just to spend it because it was in the budget, we took 200,000 of that and put it towards the pension liability. Because again, those are the long-term things that will affect us having to levy that millage. You know, the more we can pay down, the more that can earn money in the stock market and all of that kind of good stuff, and build, you know, the better for the city in the long term. So.
And now, Carl, we have our audit coming up here in September, correct?
Audit starts October 10th.
October 10th, okay. So remember, these are unaudited numbers. I don't, Carl, being
But
a
they
former
will-
auditor,
they
I
will
don't
be-
expect these to change
They'll
that
be
much.
right there. So.
And I don't think it's doom as much as being transparent.
Exactly. Being forthright, absolutely. Okay, Mayor and council members, that's 15B. Director Johnson, if you could do 15C, please. This is our investment report.
So again, short and sweet with the investments. As you know, I bring these to you quarterly as required by the state. So at June 30, 2016, our lowest cash point. So if you think about it, this is, we make it through the year. Our property tax collection stopped in February. Not a whole lot going on from March to June. So this report in front of you is really our lowest cash point of the year. July 1 tax bills go out, our cash flow increases, et cetera. So on hand at June 30, 2016, there was $18.5 million of investments, cash and investments on hand. The mix is similar to what we had before. The last quarter was terrible for the bond market, so I had a few bonds called. They were callable bonds and term bonds. They were called because the bond market tanked and I was getting a very nice interest rate, so they were called. Most of that I just put into the Oakland County investment pool to, again, we're still earning somewhere near 1% on that investment pool, which is an outstanding rate of return. So to the extent I have short-term cash like that, I dump it into there. And then just recently in the past few weeks, the muni bond market is picking up a little bit and returns are starting to rebound. So reinvesting some of that money back into that. So, but otherwise, like I say, it's fairly consistent. We're still earning almost 2% on our money, which is kind of crazy, given that we were 0.3 or 0.4 before. So, like I say, we hit the market. We bought it good about a year ago. July is when most of these were purchased, and that was really the high point in the bond market. So we're still riding that out and enjoying it, and we'll keep working for a great return.
Any further questions?
Just fantastic.
Thank you so much for a job well done.
Thank you.
And
Absolutely.
I like that catch that you made on that, the COPS grant. We owing money, that they owed us money back and this should count. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, as the grant was winding down, we just wanted to make sure we got every dime we were eligible for that had been extended, and, you know, looked into all of our eligible costs, and literally we drew down every dime. And we got reimbursed for it 100% in July, I think is when we got the last check. So
But
all's
that was
good.
great catch on that.
But by the way, regarding the COPS grant, council members, I should also mention that we actually do have a new application into the feds right now. Whether or not we'll get funded is another thing, but it's not because we didn't try. Madam Mayor, I have one more thing, and I want to finalize the city manager report. I wanted to thank Marty Babayev from the Suit Depot, Chloe Fowler, Steve Gold, who's here with us tonight, Patrick Petit, our famous cheesecake resident, and Director Cooper, Officer Benson, Lieutenant Kretschmeyer, and Deputy Director Pinkerton. They participated on a show that will run in a few weeks probably on our cable station, and it was a show that discussed public safety, and it discussed public safety in a variety of different ways, including addressing, Director Cooper addressed some of the most recent issues that we've been hearing about in the media around the country. So I hope that you will take a look at that, and I hope that you will find it informative as I did. So I wanted to thank all of you for that. Madam Mayor, members of council, that completes the city manager report for this evening.
Thank you, City Manager. Next is call to the audience. Please give us your name and address slowly, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Joyce Bannon, 10611 Troy, Hope Park. I don't mean to be disrespectful, Councilmember Rich, but when you talk, could you talk into the microphone better? Because at home, I cannot understand what you're saying, and I'm sitting here and sometimes I don't understand what your comments are. I don't mean to be a bit disrespectful, but I'm being honest with you, okay? Second is, I'm ecstatic that we're gonna get some new vehicles for our police officers. I've been coming to these council meetings for like 4 or 5 years. We've been buying used vehicles. We're gonna get some new ones. Great. Third off, give me a minute. The branch came out. Please, anybody who gets it, read it. It's so informative for the elections and for leaf pickup, but for elections. We had such a terrible time last presidential election because we had gone from 19 precincts down to 10. We are now back up to 16. It will not be as bad. If you have any problems, please get an absentee ballot. We will be there for you, but read the branch. It came to the door today, and I was ecstatic, and I told my husband, I gotta bring it tonight and say thank you so much for the information that was in there. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's see, then we are on call to council. Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and also thank you to the staff and participants for the art exhibit that took place today in the City Hall. Thank you.
Councilmember Radner.
Thank you all for coming out. Have a wonderful evening.
Councilmember Rich.
Thank you for coming. Have a good night.
I have a few things to mention. Hope everybody had a wonderful Labor Day. I think communities are pulling together now. There's a community spirit that is wonderful. The Arts Commission had a art show tonight, and there were 50 people out there enjoying the art, and kudos to the Arts Commission. We've been really busy this summer, starting with all of you out waving flags for the 4th of July parade. Clearly, the men on council won the Best Dressed Award in matching seersucker suits, red and white and blue ties, and one of them with red gym shoes. Ladies, next year we have to up our game. There were 4 Dancing in the Park events this summer and 4 concerts in the park. Lovely events. We had the first dog day in August at the pool, welcoming pups to the pool to swim. That was great fun. Sad events of the summer, we lost some Oak Park residents this summer. We attended the funeral, the beloved father of our Oak Park City Attorney, the funeral of Richard Kelly, who had been appointed Grand Marshal, and Lonnie Tabb's mother, among others. We had successful grand openings. Planet Fitness, everybody is thrilled to have. Open 24/7, clean. Staff just is thrilled to have you walk in the door. It is a very friendly place. Great Lakes Landscaping had an opening. If you haven't been down Capitol Street and seen the options that they have, you need to take a drive down there. I went to the East Oak Park picnic, but was in Oregon spoiling grandchildren for the All Oak Park Block Club picnic. The arts presentation in the library, we had an winning children's artist present on jazz in Harlem. There were a lot of meetings, the 8 Mile Boulevard Association board meetings. They gave a grant to Oak Park businesses on 8 Mile to improve the facades. Regional Transit Authority board meetings, South Oakland County Mayor's Association. I was at a Women Officials Network board a meeting, went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I was on the board. So let that be a warning to you all, stay at the meeting. Young Israel of Oak Park, there was a meeting dealing with anti-Semitism on college campuses. If you have a child in a college campus, they can get help if they need help. Michigan Municipal League is having a convention next week on Mackinac Island, and several members of the group here are attending. And we have Historic Society meetings that's going well. If you know somebody who's been in Oak Park for a while, write up what you remember, and we'd like to keep it on file. We'd like to start a file of memories of what Oak Park was like when you first came. And that would be a treasure, and we would keep that for Oak Park history. Kudos to all who took part in the first Oak Park Sunflower Summer. City Manager Tungate for the idea, Kevin Yee for supervising all of those workers, digging beds, planting, fertilizing, watering, and best of all, I think, involving the school kids. All the school kids got to plant 2 little seeds, and at the time it was like no big deal, but now their little seeds are 10 feet tall, and I think it'll mean more to them next year when this happens. Thanks to all the unheralded gardeners who weren't chosen this year for a garden award, but who are working to make Oak Park a better place, improving our curb appeal. Thank you for all you do. And I think we're at the end here. There being no further business to come before this council, this meeting is adjourned.